the session, all the bishops' men gave me much latitude so I could decide on my approach. And because I was at the regional conference with the men from the other districts and our own district, what I am going to do, I will connect. I'm connecting with what Bishop shared, and I am going to follow that line. And I'm saying to us, every man got to leave here making a covenant. What will be shared and what has already been shared is telling you, guys, men, you have to make a covenant. And that's going to be my approach this morning. Because the knowledge that will be given is pointing to the fact that not that the devil, it weren't the devil who gave you your sex drive. So what we are tapping into is we are saying naturally this is a man. And because many of us Christian men are unaware what the enemy has been doing is, and Paul expresses it, that's when he said, lest Satan should gain the advantage, for we are not ignorant of his device. When we are not aware of who we are, that lack of knowledge is an effective tool the enemy has used to destroy us. So you're hearing it loud and clear, loud and clear. It is how we were wired by God and how Satan has manipulated that natural bent. So let's begin. We are talking about making a covenant, and we'll get to that. We are taking a journey, and we will get to that. This man peeping Tom, the eyes of the man. We're going to get to that. So we are making the starting point, and we're making the starting point that males are rebellious by nature. Women have rebel hearts. Paul said that in 1 Timothy 2:14 when he said, Adam was not the one deceived. It was the woman who was deceived and became a sinner. Adam wasn't deceived. Eve was deceived. The enemy tricked Eve, not Adam. Adam knew that the fruit was wrong and he still ate it. That's rebellion. That's the point that Paul is making. Adam was not deceived. Eve was. And believe it or not, all the sons of Adam from that day on to today always have to be aware that men tend to be rebellious. You see how obedient the woman would have been if this was a woman's conference, all down there, all over there. All over there. Why is that so? Why are we not just motivated? Why? You have a different answer from me? In that we operate from the same position of Adam, rebels. We know it wrong, but we go still do it. Because that resembles being a man. I'm a man. So get that, men. Always, the knowledge is to go back and always check your rebel heart. And the rebelness of us will go all in the family, wada. And here, because we're naturally rebellious, what was shared earlier there? When you have not come to the place where you recognize your rebellion, and you have to deal with all that stuff up there, the testosterone, well, that is why every now and again I help the young ladies to develop sexual common sense. To learn that, you see, when a man's testosterone is high, he's going to be all over you like a bee on a flower. And if you do not have the sexual, the young ladies, they have the sexual common sense to distinguish between a man's testosterone looking for an outlet from genuine love, she's in trouble. But you guys married, you should know when your testosterone high. Because basically, men give love for sex. Women give sex for love. It's a way different wiring and orientation. Testosterone high. You're going to do everything outside there because, the women, they would say, hey, you been what you are. I have no time with you. Then check it out. Let's come to grips with that. We have to work against the men's. The barrier breaking conference was echoing that loud and clear about the curse. It's a major inhibitor. Just the man just love to be rebellious. So we're just talking about the natural things, okay? We're just exploring some natural thing to take us to why we need to leave this place with a covenant. And then secondly, you heard it earlier this morning, males have a strong, put the emphasis on strong sexual desire. Regular, strong, and given by God. God-given. Because the average Christian wife would always ask, why sex always on your mind, sir? Your mother died, you want sex. Your uncle died, you want sex. You preach a good sermon, you want sex. The average Christian woman who doesn't understand believes, definitely, I marry a maniac. But naturally, we are blessed by God with a strong, regular sex drive. We got to understand that. And the quicker we understand that, we are in a better position to live pure. We're wired like that. So here, we are rebels, and we have all this desire. Awareness, my brothers, men. And then I want to tap into a little of our culture as black men. Because we have there is this, whether it be perceived or so on, this reputation for black men sexual prowess. And it has been rumored from time immemorial that when it comes to genitalia, black men are generally more endowed than other men of other race. There is this belief that black men, when it comes to sex, seem to have it all, them blessed. Slavery didn't make that any better for us, you know. And we know that in some cultures, like in Tobago, there is that aspect of the tourism where these foreign Caucasian women come to Tobago for black men. Black men. So black men is known to be stallions sexually. And I'm saying all of this because the implication of it is Proverbs 23:7 says that as a man thinks, so is he. It's in the thinking, in the thinking, as you open your mind as a gateway to your heart, then that can begin to shape you and to shape your behavior. But there's a scripture I've read, and I found it very intriguing in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 16 and verse 26. And I read from the World English Bible. It says, "You have also committed sexual immorality with the Egyptians, your neighbors, great of flesh, and have multiplied your prostitution to provoke my anger." Great, note that the verse said, greater flesh. Greater flesh. It refers, in Ezekiel, it refers to the genital organ. So the Egyptians, who were Egyptians? Black men. the African who had great size genital. They had large genitals. So, put it in the New Life Translation, said, you have played the harlots with your neighbor, the sensual Egyptians. Over and over you have done. That translation said sensual. So the black men were conceived by the Israelite women to have some oversized genitals. And the prophet is saying, listen, you have provoked God's wrath. But I'm just establishing the point, I'm just playing on the point that this cultural expectation and lots of us, the black men, somehow or the other, we have embraced it mentally. And no doubt it has been affecting behaviors in the church. Same Ezekiel 23 and verse 3. Same African men now. There was a thing about the Africans and the Israelite women. Israelite women them seem to love the African man them. And it says their nipples were handled and their virgin breasts were fondled by these black men. It gets even hotter. It gets hotter. Verse 19 and 20, New World Translation, Ezekiel 23, 19 and 20. She kept multiplying her act of prostitution to the point of calling to mind the days of her youth when she prostituted herself in Egypt. And she kept lusting in the style of concubines, belonging to those whose fleshly members is as the fleshly member of a male ass. So they said the Africans' genitals were like those of a donkey. Yes, you gotta go back there, man. You gotta go back to Ezekiel. I carry you back to Ezekiel and talk about the repetition there. And it says, whose genital organs is the genital organs of a male horse. So, I've given you some other translation says she was infatuated by the male prostitute. Who were these male prostitutes? Africans. Black men. Whose members, their penis, were like those of asses, and whose semen, their ejaculation was that of a horse. Want me to read from my own book? The black Africans, the Egyptians were described, their penises were described to that of an ass, a donkey, and the ejaculation to that of a horse. Just try to use it and put in some kind of cultural context. That of this reputation of the black man. And know that you are in Christ. If you had opened your heart to these beliefs, they can affect our behavior. About black men. It's like there's an expectation. It's like black men are expected to be like this. In our behavior, in our setting this thing up for you so that by the end of this conference, you're going to make a covenant. Going to make a covenant. There's an issue that I try to help the young people about their purity, because you talk about hormone, testosterone. But in the whole sexual and in our autonomy and how it works, there are a number of other hormones at play. And one of those is one called dopamine. And when we understand how it works, you can best understand what Paul said in 1 Corinthians 6 and 18. Flee from sexual immorality. All of the sins that a man commits are outside of his body. He who sins sexually sins against his body. So let's go back to dopamine, which is a natural produced chemical that stimulates certain parts of the body during pleasurable activities. Now, sex is the most pleasurable of all activities. Do I have no amen there?
Amen.
Huh? Yes. So, any pleasurable activity that a person is involved in, you are rewarded. Your brain will reward you by a release of a hormone called dopamine. It's a pleasure hormone. You do exercise and all of that. Your body releases and reward you with this overwhelming good feelings. So the thing about reward is, anytime you see reward, you will see repetition. If you are rewarded with this overwhelming, great feeling, then you want another one. You want another one. But the thing about dopamine is, it is highly addictive. Highly addictive. You get the same, it's the same dynamics. If you study addiction, you understand how the body and how addiction works. It's about reward, reinforcement, and you get repetition of behavior. You want that high again, so you have to take the drug again. So I am giving the knowledge to the young people to say to them, hey, no, well, the young man said, well, I just thief in a little thing. But after you have stolen a little thing and you're rewarded by this Mont Soufriere volcanic eruption, it becomes difficult next time to say no. But the thing about dopamine is it's natural, so that it is a reward, so that people in normal, legal, lawful relationship is good. The body is naturally made so that you will want to have sex. The body is made for sex, not for fornication. God designed your body for sex. He give you something that is protruding, and he give the woman them a cavity. God is a lovely designer, man. It fits. It fits. It fits. Your body is made for sex. Every part of it, the brain, how it is wired and all, is made for sex, but dangerous for sexual deviation. That's right. Because the way it is designed is, when you get these chemicals, these hormones, it becomes addictive. You want it next time. Okay. And most men, when it comes to sex, they operate on schedule. If only you get sex, well, let's just say, let's use a number. Let's use a number. Let's suppose you get sex.
Once every 6 months.
No, it can't be that bad. It ain't that bad. Let's just say, let's just say you get it every night. Just say that. In a normal relationship. Believe it or not, most men go on schedule. You got that 8 o'clock? Your body working on schedule. Schedule. Every 8 o'clock, your whole body, because it operates on schedule. And we are trying to help young people with sexual common sense. This is what common sense. Because I know that young people ain't just want you to say, well, no, sex wrong. Go into the nitty-gritty of it. Dopamine is highly addictive. And that's why fornicators, lesbian, homosexual, all of that, so hard to kick and to get away with it. Because your body, sin against your body now working against you. Because you have done it against his body. Sin against your body. You have set up a thing of reward. So we're running along quick. Now we're talking manly thing, huh? Yes. Right. Man up yourself, yeah? Men receive sexual gratification through their eyes. Eyes. Which is a natural thing created by God. Here again, when God created Adam, Eve, remember, Adam was put to sleep. He had never seen a woman in all his life. And he wakes out of his sleep, and the King James Version is kind of dull. He wakes up, and I'm talking to men. Let me put it this way. He wakes up, and when he opens his eyes and he saw the woman, he said, Jesus Christ. Come on now, Bishop. You understand what I'm saying? This man wake up, he saw cattle and horse and all of that and all of that. And he wakes up and see this woman naked before him. Say, my blouse and shirt, pants and shirt. Hmm? So what was designed originally for men to admire the woman, the legal woman in his life, the enemy is using this natural ability of men that they are sight beings. And that's why Jesus, in Matthew 5:27 and 28, said, you've heard of old, you shall not commit adultery. But I tell you, any one of you look at a woman lustfully, you have committed adultery already in your heart. I all interpret this, Jesus said, to mean not the first look. This ain't the first look. You can't avoid the first look. My God. Remember, as the rebel minds now could say, man, in your heart and say, I that me just see there. Let me see if it's that me see.
Check again.
Huh?
I said check twice.
It is the second and the third and the fourth. Believe it. Believe it.
So and you got to pass on the first look.
Yeah, well. Can't help that. Very often. Well, well, in the office, he has to pretend that he's looking at the phone and making a point.
I have a question. Is dopamine kicking like when you just see?
No.
That way you have to look back again? No, when you come in here. No, because...
Pleasurable.
Yeah, because if it's pleasurable, does it kick in at that moment?
It doesn't. Doesn't have to. Not really. But I suppose if after a while you start training your mind to make that response, it can. But
a man is tempted when he's drawn away.
Right. The first look. Yeah. First look may be accidental. The second one is usually deliberate. It's usually a response and a choice. And I tell you, men, in that the women are not making it easier for us today.
That's right.
Women, whether they be in church or out of church, and I tell people, I come to dedication, and I said, women make me uncomfortable. I don't want to see your breasts.
Okay.
Serious. I really don't want to see your breasts. At least my mind is trained enough to respect you. I don't want to see your breasts. And you put me under stress because I have to look at you. Look so near your face is to your breasts. What do I do? Look down on my shoes when I'm talking to you? When all that, you show all that breast, and mind you must admit, the people them breasts look good. I mean, these are these young women, them, they have no children yet, and they, my God, they're in their bloom, full bloom. And we are talking in the church. They are not making it easier for a man. They are not a part of our solution. They are part of our problem.
Major problem.
But I tell you, men, our task here is not to go out and have a crusade to get women cover up, because I don't think that there will be. So we have to teach you a different strategy of survival in the jungle.
Come on now.
In the jungle.
Come on now. Oh, no.
Well, we have to teach you now how to live in the jungle. How to live in the jungle, and we are getting to this covenant. We are getting there.
Bishop, just before you move to the other quite interestingly, as we sit in the congregation on Sunday morning, most of the worship leaders are females, and you say certain things are unavoidable. So, does it extend beyond whereas there's a beautiful worship leader up there leading the service, and you're singing and so on, and she's dressed rather nice, and you are constantly gazing because she's singing and you're gazing. Unavoidably, you're looking up there. How would you address something like that? Additionally, your first look, let it say it's a good look, meaning you don't take away your eye because your consciousness says that if you look a second and a third time, you are harboring lust. But if you take a good first look, how will you address something like that? That's wrong, man. It's supposed to have no good first look.
What?
But we getting there. We getting there. We going there. We going there. We going there. We going there. But believe it or not, men, I am saying, male impurity of the eyes is sexual foreplay. Impurity of the eyes. Because men are visually stimulated. And if we do not, as men, learn how to make these eyes pure, then we could be setting up ourselves to plenty problem. And I must say that let's not clothe our manhood and put it in religious garb now and don't believe that you ain't going to pay the price, because there are, listen, we love laying on of hands, but listen to me. Some of the way women are dressed, then you can't lay hands on them. And God made our senses for nothing. Sense of touch, whatever. Some of these women, they touch. You focusing on anointing, but you're a human being. Guys, know this about men's eyes. Same thing God created for you to admire it with your wife. The enemy uses against us with other women. And that's why I'm not advocating us now start this new thing about women and their dress and all. Personally, I don't think it's going to get better. I'm afraid one of these days, sometime I'm afraid if I'm alive long enough, where go reach? Serious. Where the dress going to reach. Because if you look at you look at the trajectory of a moving object, and you could predict.
We're going back to the jungle now.
Yes, man.
Natural.
Yes, we're gonna. And we would have to be, believe it or not, the answer is going to be to teach men, purity of the eyes. Purity of the eyes. Guys, we could be taught how to admire beauty without becoming overly lustful.
But, sir,
Yes.
there is something must be seen as what we call appropriate dressing. Especially for a song leader, when a young lady is going to go up there to lead. Okay?
But if we go down that road to discuss, what you're saying is wonderful. These men will miss the message to men.
So this.
Wait.
I'm sorry.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
No.
Point of order. Don't
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. Fine. A part of us dealing with the whole problem,
Yeah.
we will have to establish minimal rules for engagement in certain activities. Yes.
That way I wanted to go.
Yes, but
Because
with
they
this
can be
seminar,
distracting.
this seminar can't address it.
No, but I'm asking you now. I'm asking you now.
This is not the time for it.
Yeah,
Not the time for
Yeah.
that question.
Can I emphasize
Yeah.
that say-
What question?
Not now.
because we could miss, we will miss the male problem. We will shift the male problem to the female problem as we have been doing. That we have a problem and we have a problem with our eyes.
So, Pastor, didn't you come and indicate many to right? Same eye issue, right? Without seeing the dress differently, sort of a short skirt, you can see a breast, but they are properly attired, properly, but well shaped. How do you, as a child of God?
Same my problem. Same my problem.
Same. Because after a while, remember, images are stored in the mind. And even without, after a while, even without images, the mind. Yes. Right.
Bishop, before you move again, sorry, it's really juicy, you know, so I'm talking. In ancient time, you had women dressing with more clothing, and I'm sure it would have, the eyes might have seen them. As the years roll on, as the centuries roll on, as you rightfully said, the clothes became less.
I agree with
And
that.
as you say futuristically, if you're still here, I am still here. I would say, you might have people walking almost nude in the streets of Kingston. But let's not talk futuristically. Let's talk current. The fact that women used to appeal to men back in those days. I want to say it has nothing to do with a dress per se, but as you are rightfully saying, it goes back to the mind and the way how we were wired by God. Because if you put a beautiful lady in a long dress, once her face and shape is there protruding, you are going to have the appeal. If you take that same woman and you put her in swimwear or something else, bikini, the appeal increases. So the world and time is changing to set up men more.
Guys,
Because if the appeal increase when there's less,
The eyes.
and they
guys, all of this, the way it is interpreted is going to be through cultural lens. Muslim women are totally covered. But it does not. Those guys are polygamists.
In the Old Testament, why the law was given to Moses? It wasn't to show up sin. It was the law was given to show up sin. So if we refuse to implement laws to protect the sin, we will be making. That's what I mean. I don't want to go to public.
Yeah,
I
yes.
just want to imply that that is what the law was given for, to show sin. Right?
And
sin was there. But it was hidden, and so the law was given to show sin. So if we say that we are not moving to implement laws to govern some of these things, what are we doing? We are giving sin free will.
no, we're not saying that. We're not saying that. We're not saying that. So, okay, let me pull back to me now. I don't want no man talk after me for now. Here why. Women have a tendency to shift blame. When the oldest strategy of man, when confronted, we could shift it. And I'm not saying that we don't need to address some of the causes. But we do not want to move a male issue and blame women. Men have problems with their eyes. By the way God made us to admire women, a woman in our lives. But the enemy has used our own minds to put it on other women. And every man got to address his problem. And his problem cannot be conditioned because of how the woman then dress and how the woman then dress. We've got to reach to the place where we have to survive wherever we live.
So therefore, if you're focused, it don't matter if they come to you naked, you will still be looking in one direction.
Yes.
That's the same, right?
Yes. Yes. Because none of us could say that they won't come. All right? So we have to find the ways. Yes. So watch the eyes, guys, because just through the eyes alone, a man can get sexual gratification just by eyes. That's why pornography a big business.
Yes.
Just by seeing. So I jump one more. And we will talk a little about I'm just a man. Just a man. And I want to use that not as an excuse, but a strength. Because I want to use a gentleman in the Bible called Job. Job 1:1 says in the land of Ur, there was a man whose name was Job. He was just a man. Job was just a man like any one of you. Flesh and blood. He had scrotum and penis and testicle. And this man was blameless and upright. He feared God, shunned evil. Verse 8 said, and then the Lord said to Satan, Satan came to him and said, have you considered my servant Job? And said, there is no one in the earth like him. He's blameless, upright, a man who fears God and shuns evil. Just a man. Job was just a man. Just a man, like having all that we have said, he was just a man like us. When we use just a man, we use just a man as an excuse. I'm just a man, you know. Like just being a man is to be reckless and to be out of control, and you have not just a man. What do you mean you're just a man? I'm just showing you now that Job was just a man who was blameless. So what was the key about Job and how God could make such a boast on him and put God's own character at stake when he gave Satan leave to try him? Chapter 31 and verse 1 gives us the answer as we get into making a covenant. Chapter 31 and 1 of Job says, I made a covenant with my eyes not to look lustfully at a young woman. Job made a covenant with his eyes not to look lustfully. Mind you, we said that usually it is the second look, which is a choice, which is a response to what you have seen, whether by accident or whatever, and you are now acting on it. It's a pledge. In ancient time, a covenant was a solemn pledge or promise, and Job made a commitment never to gaze upon a young woman. Gaze, it means in the translation, look intently, look lustfully, stare with desire. Stare with desire. He committed not to let his heart be led by his eyes. Instead, he will take his thoughts captive. And Job is very serious. Verse 9 and 10 of Job 31, this is the seriousness of the man's covenant. He said, if my heart has been enticed by a woman, or if I have been lurking, peeping in my neighbor's door. I said, well, I don't peep into anybody's bedroom, but you peep into people's bedroom when you look up a porn. And some of those movies, whose bedroom you looking into? In the movies. Are your bedroom? He said, then, let my wife grind another man's grain, and let other men sleep with her. The seriousness of his commitment that he said, if I now start looking at other women, well then let other men do the same thing with my wife. So Job's commitment, I challenge you men, when you get home, we don't have the time, read Job 31 for me. Read the 31. And his covenant is based on the omniscience of God. Look at verse 4 of the same chapter. Job said, does not he see my ways and number my steps? For Job, God is seeing me. When you lost, anybody see when you lost? Who know? When you think of it, nothing escaped the gaze of God. And men, you will know. Sin thrives in secrecy. Sin thrives in secrecy. You see, exposure. You're having an issue, you find somebody, you tell your wife. Well, you keep that in secret. You see the illusion of invisibility? It's dangerous. I love what R.C. Sproul said. There is no place so remote that we can escape his penetrating gaze. God is seeing me. Live with that, and believe it or not, I find in the church, these are some of the virtues that we are forgetting. That I am always in the gaze of God. If we live like that, man, there are some things you not do because somebody go see. But if you live the conscious life that God is always seeing me, man, I am seen by God. You see, this illusion about invisibility, David went for it. David went for it. And in a track of serious steps that he took just to cover up his act. And all of us, we ain't just reading, we ain't just talking about what David thought would have been a secret. Then make this covenant based on God's discipline. Verse 2. What would be my portion from God above and my heritage from the Almighty? When I start living like this and doing all of these things, what do we expect? We expect calamity, disaster. Verse 3 said, it is not ruin of the wicked, disaster for those who do wrong. We have to think of where would this lead and the consequences. You remember how God disciplined David? I didn't want to be disciplined, so. Serious discipline. So when a woman catches your attention, what do? Make a pledge today. Make a pledge. one, I am forgetting his name, but he advocates bounce your eyes. When you see what you're not supposed to see, bounce your eyes. Look away. Look away. Train yourself in this kind of reflex. The habit of your eyes is no different from the habit from other habits. Experts say that anything done consistently for 21 days becomes a new habit. The brain will start responding and make pathway, and you get a new behavior right there. Women, this is the call, we're not thinking women. We men are called here to make this covenant with we eyes. Shift the eyes. At first, it's going to be very uncomfortable, a new behavior. But as you keep practicing it, this is survival skills for men in this jungle we live in now. Of shifting. We thank Bishop George Frederick. We really thank you for giving your intellect to us and for a great piece of work. That book is a stroke of a genius, you know. It speaks of the reality that we're not talking about these men's issues, that these are natural ways that the enemy been using against us. And when we are not ignorant, for the enemy succeeds when we are all ignorant. When we are all ignorant. Be like Job. I'm just a man. But here what we're going to do. We're going to make a covenant. Just a man. If you're a man, do the manly thing. Make a covenant with your eyes. She not your wife? She ain't your wife? Shift away, bounce away. You take control of your eyes and your heart and your mind. I think we are going somewhere, man. I'm not going to sit here cry this morning because more men, you know, always. I mean, you come to every sermon and you say, my God, why this place wasn't full up? I don't have all the answers. But I'm really, really sorry that lots of the things I know today, I didn't know them way before. Knowledge is power. Our lives could have been better, richer. We could have avoided some of the things. Knowledge. Entrance of your words give it light. Yes. Amen.
You see that now, sir. It's good to listen, because I was trying to say something and you stopped me. But I now get it at the end of the presentation. Don't blame the women. Take control of your eyes. Because this problem with the dressing that we're seeing now, it ain't going away. I just walked out the dining room yesterday at the hotel. Where is my friend? Brother Stuart was there and I say, couldn't this be more appropriate? He said, but that's the way they're going. What you're going to do? Take control of your eye. Thank you for that.
My brother's first look.
Both of you for your job well done this morning, right? Because the fact that it's a small group and you give it energy to it. Sometimes when you have this kind of small crowd, we don't give our energy to it. We just speak emotion. But you all give everything this morning to us. Thank you very much.
I'm not asking any question, but I'm just reinforcing something that we understand is that when you have knowledge and you understand these principles, your action changes. And a lot of men don't understand them, and they're only reacting to the circumstances. And because of that, we're having issues in the church all over the place, and we're not understanding the cause of it. And I give thanks today that my bishop understands that. And he's sharing it with the whole fold so that the problem can be get rid of completely from the source rather than dealing with the symptoms all the time. You know? So I give you thanks and praise to God that everything working out that way.
You mentioned something about what is guilt. Deuteronomy says something like that, right?
Dopamine.
You talk about with the drug addict also. So they become habitual.
Yes, yes.
So is it that also when they take the drug is that they receive a good feeling from what?
Dopamine is what the brain secretes, and it produces this feeling of pleasure. And really, the body is built to reward behavior. But if we do good behavior and we are rewarded, then we are going to repeat good behavior. And you want good behavior to be repeated. When you break God's law now, the body know that you're breaking God's law. The body still, because it was created to work in a certain way. It will reward you.
I want to put this question to the pastors of the congregation. Someone was making the point earlier about the worship leader, the law. So how do you deal with the worship leader? And every man has his favorite part of the female anatomy, right? So you want to get your worship and your praise on, but the worship leader, God has blessed her with the things that you like.
Shut your eyes and sing.
Right? So that's where the covenant comes in. But the object of the worship leader is to engage you, and for you to also engage her. You can't engage her with your eyes closed. So practically, you know, how you deal with that?
And I love how you put it, because we see the challenges when we begin to legislate. Because, believe it or not, sometimes what we are trying to cover up, those are not the parts that a certain man has problems with. We could just help worship leaders, and that's why we are saying that we sensitize people to some minimal standards. And by minimal, we say, fine, this is the way you normally dress to church, but when you have to be in the limelight and in the focus, we would ask you to watch the lowness of your cut. What do you call this cut? Cleavage. You watch the armpits, and you understand? And for different women, it would be different something. We are not giving it in a bondage sense, but in a sense of responsibility. That's how we have to come to it, and we need to do that. There's a need for that.
At the beginning, Bishop said that men are naturally rebellious. I have found being in church, dealing with this problem, and this is why we didn't want you to interject when he was trying to get men to take full responsibility, is that as soon as we start legislating where women become rebellious, because they I've been in churches where they tried to lengthen the skirt, and women went with a longer skirt but a tighter one and create another problem. Right? And so women rebel when we try to legislate. This is why, as men, we have to face the problem head on and deal with it with our covenant.
By chance, when a woman just do with a jest, it brings to them pleasure in it. I think so. But, you know, we maybe as well selfish in our own way as well. All right? She enjoyed her dress code just lovely. But we, as I said earlier, that in our mind, doing the business. So if we go back to Scripture and just make a covenant with ourselves and the Lord, it will help us a lot. You know?
The men, I have found over time, men have always shifted them problem. They're always shifting their problem to a woman. It is a woman, it is a woman, it is a woman you give me. Genesis, are you a woman you give me? We've got to, men, we may control a bit in the church, but you can't control it in the workplace. What you going to do out there? You spend more time out there than you spend in here. The responsibility, therefore, is on the man. We need to make this cultural shift where we start recognize the purity of just beauty.
That is correct, Bishop. That is correct. And I like what you're saying, that we must take control, right? But I'm talking here now in terms of a song leader or your worship team.
Well, that's what we have said. We have to start promoting some minimal, because
I don't still want to see them raising their hand, leading. Yeah, you're taking control here.
but
There must be some appropriate.
the arm these days well shaved up and all of that. So, you know.
It's not only a man, it's not only looking at them in any funny way, but there are other people, okay, women in the congregation who are not satisfied
Well, yes.
with the exposure up there. That's what I'm saying.
And then it depends.
Generals.
And then it depends also. There are some new cultures in churches where it is not a big issue.
And it can affect worship.
You know that.
I agree.
There are some churches now that more and more it's not becoming that a big issue anymore because of the sensitization. But guys, let me work on the problem because to fix it is not as easy. You see, as you said, the women them will wear longer dresses, but they put some split. They split it. They split it. They have, and then they wear some material. So it's difficult. Do not wait for women to fix your problem. You fix your problem.
Make a covenant here now, ladies, to dress better.
Yeah, just wanna give my observation and comments on it. It's like just the whole structure of the symposium extremely is, excellently put together, seeing different facets. So like persons, like males from different backgrounds could still take, so much from it. You have the medical part of it, the scientific part of it, the scriptural part of it, and the practical part of it. And what I like to point out, especially to Reverend Fredericks, how real you were at the beginning with your language specifically, because I have made the observation that whenever in church or in a church setting, and sex is being the topic, is very spiritual and very don't talk about it. But once you step outside and in family and drinking or what's not, you talk extremely loose about it. And, so here in this forum, but no, it's true. It's true. When I say loose, when married men are together and different forum, it come out raw and uncut. So that's the truth. That's the fact. Right? So it is very much very well put together and well received. I like to believe that it's well received as well.
I just want to say congratulations to Bishop Frederick and Bishop Williams for the topic, sexuality today. Now, I just want to say, this is how we gather parts of our body, the hands, the feet. You can't see anything with the mouth. You can't walk into anybody, place just with the feet. You can't hit anybody, and you can't do anything. What we're saying here, the eyes, we have to guard our eyes and so on. And most of the troubles that we experience today are because of our eyes. See people property there and they want to trouble this and they want to trouble that. Now, another thing again. We see today when they have advertisements, they be advertising about the church or a juicy or some biscuit or sweetie. And you see the ladies just certain ways. This is to catch our eyes. Even sports. So a female athlete, she put on certain shorts to one like a tennis player so on. Even footballers, you see them with their pants right up there, short. It's to catch your eyes. So the main thing. Yeah? Okay, Bishop Fredericks. But yes, I hear you, but the eyes. Yeah, Javier Fredericks, Bishop Fredericks, yes. Right? Yes? It's to catch your eyes. What, Bishop? You go on a plane, Bishop Williams, you see the air hostess and the attendants there, short. And the brother man from St. Kitts there, see you at his hotel, he saw one of the worker there, one shot. He saw a worker there in some short thing and he was looking for his partner to say, look at that. It's to catch your eyes, the workers there, wearing things to catch the temptation. So it's what you see. It's what leads to this destruction. And as I said there, when you see what you're supposed to see, bounce your eyes and look away. Because the temptation today is what causes most of the trouble. And the law says that persons under 15 years old, 13 years old cannot give consent. But some big hardback men, you see these young children, they parent them and so on. Although they know that the law protects them. Temptation. And some of these young girls, you see them, school children, dressing all sorts of short skirt. And they're pushing themselves on the van drivers and so on. And the van driver with their eyes now, the girls hot and spicy, they eat to temptation. So the eyes, in short, is the main thing that leads us to lust and the problems that we're having today. The brother here speak about the worship leaders up there in the attire certain way. Even they just well or they just any other how contrary to the regulated way. You're supposed to be guarding your eyes against them, and there should be a dress code, in my opinion, that when you're going to worship lead, it's just a certain way. Because when you're up there, sometimes the men may not be listening to what they're singing, but the eyes on them watching them. Yeah? They need to have a bishop a dress code, how worship leaders are supposed to dress, whether male or female, to avoid some of the problems in the church. I have more, but I'll leave them for the open forum. I'll cut now and give somebody else a chance.
On behalf of our director, Pastor Marcellus Constance, he has a funeral, so regrettably he'll have to leave. Okay, we understand that. Just saying that, because he don't think he was reneging his responsibilities. But in relation to the question you ask, gentlemen, well, and our bishop is here, there is something that we are a little missing about these eyes as well. God, because I start with him, it is he who has made us, not we ourselves. He has given you the eyes to see. Now, these eyes are for you to see, and he has made beauty in the world for you to what? Admire. Now, there must be some point between admiration before you reach lust. And I don't think we are addressing it. We are making a song as though, not the bishop, what he said, the way we are crafting as though, if you see, as though lust, the sight itself is evil. Right, there and this is what it's addressed in the book. Just listen to this section as we get ready to go to lunch. One young man, Joseph, though his love and commitment to a holy God was unwavering, he was in the house of Mrs. Potiphar. And this woman couldn't keep her eyes off the young man. Here's what the scripture says. Now Joseph was well built and handsome. And after a while, his master's wife took notice of Joseph and said, come to bed with me. Now, let's pause for a moment. God has made us creatures of beauty. Now, we have to be able to see that beauty and admire that beauty. You cannot just jump to lust. Don't tell me if you see somebody with a lovely Buick car or something, you say, you can't say, that's a lovely car, without lusting immediately. You understand? So there is and we must set your theology in order. A man is tempted when he is drawn away. When you see a beautiful woman, you should be able to look at a beautiful woman and say, wow, she is pretty.
And give God the glory that she was wonderfully made.
Slap my hand there. Pow! No, I want to say,
Don't look again.
No, look again.
well, we'll come to that. Our bishop, yes. Now, wait, the food getting cold. So stop, the food getting cold. You understand? And women say men don't talk. It's because, you understand? So here's it as we get ready to go to lunch, all right? And that's why I want to make sure you get hold of the book. Hear what the scripture says. Sarah was told, was a beautiful. Hear what they said, what a beautiful woman you are. Genesis 12:11. Rebecca, Genesis 24:16. She was a young girl, was very beautiful. Rachel was lovely in form and beautiful. Moses' mother-in-law saw that she had a fine child. All right? Saul was described as an impressive young man without equal. David was ruddy, a fine appearance, handsome in appearance and features. Tamar was the beautiful sister of Absalom. The point is, God has designed beauty in the universe. He has made everything beautiful in its own time. And we as his representatives must be able to appreciate the beauty that God has given us before we allow the hijack the hormones and let it kick in and use hormones as an excuse for everything. I mean, what our bishop gave there about, I have to make a covenant with my eyes. George, these eyes are for God's glory. So when I move from seeing the glory of God to start seeing other things, you understand? I'm going out of order. The food getting cold.
No, and
so,
when I look up in the hills here,
yeah.
as you carry us to some strategic point,
Yes.
I have to make a covenant with my eyes that I'm not going to lust for somebody's homes. It's the best I've seen in the world.
Come again. Yeah.
Well, then, let me get another one for that now. Kenneth, let me get another one for that.
I thought I had a beautiful home. I said, that is nonsense, but help me, Lord. Make a covenant. Not to look at it.
Look again, man.
So, gentlemen, take it. We are being men when we admire beauty, when we appreciate the glory of God in all around us and including one another. Yeah? If you want to match with this meeting, God sometimes makes some of us men handsome and some of us afraid to tell one another we're handsome. You know why? We're afraid. If you want to mash up this meeting today, sir, take back your meeting.
All right, so thank you very much to all those who participated, and please put your hands together again for our bishop. And I trust that at the end of this day, as he has said, all of us will make a covenant with our eyes not to look upon a woman lustfully. Amen.